Hey everyone, and welcome to another video. I'm Simply G, and today I'm going to be showing off all of the manga that I got for this month. Oh, excuse me. But February, I got a lot of manga. Not a huge amount read, unfortunately, which isn't something I typically like to do. I do like to have read all of the stuff that I've gotten over the course of the month before I talk about it. But there's a lot here, so I'm going to get straight into it. I hope you guys enjoy. And yeah. Next up is actually something that I got. My good friend Ray from Whimsical Pictures, she let me know that the mangaka, Ryo Hanada, creator of Devil's Line, was running a event where you could get autographed copies of their newest series, this being Blackguard for Volume 2. And it was an online event because obviously COVID, and so I did, and it has been signed. It does also have my name, so I'm going to cover that up just quickly. But you can see here that I've got little, oh my gosh, it's so cute, and it also came with 2 paper postcard things, and yeah, really happy to have this. I really like Ryo Hanada and their works. I hope we see Blackguard one day. I don't know how good it is, but I'm an edgy teen sometimes in my life. I certainly feel like it. I love Devil's Line, and I hope that one day we have a company willing to license this. But yeah, it was just kind of fun time. They live streamed the whole signing event, which was pretty cool, and I look forward to reading this maybe in the future someday. But it was just like a really fun opportunity to get something like this. We don't have, here in Australia, we don't typically get a lot of Japanese guests, especially not mangaka. And so it was, just really, really fun opportunity, especially for a creator that I do enjoy their work so much. So yeah, thanks for that, Ray. And it only took like 4 months to get to me because I chose surface mail because postage wasn't running from Japan to Australia when my copy was being shipped out, so it took a while, but well worth the wait. I just received this from Ami, and I believe this is supposed to have come with the limited edition of volume 11 of this series, but I didn't actually get the book. I just got the extra, which is why I bought it. Like, don't get me wrong, but I just expected the book to come with it as well. So this is the extra that came with volume 11 of Land of the Lustrous, and this is a little book that kind of goes over different things, explains different things within the world. It kind of makes me think that this might be Foss's or someone's hand guidebook to the world that the Lustrous incorporate and live in, and how they get on, their various tools and things that they use. It's a cool little thing. Happy to have it. It was, as I said, just a little extra that came with the special edition of volume 11. Didn't really even know what to expect with this because there's no pictures or anything. I didn't know what it really was going to be. But yeah, cool little thing, and just a nice little interesting thing to add to the collection at large. Is a art book that I got from Glacier Bay Books. This is one that I finally was able to buy on the 3rd restock. This went very quickly, and that is Girl, Flower, Mouse, Rabbit, Egg, and Cat by Little Thunder. This is just a collection of artwork, right? So Nothing super dramatic, but really lovely little pieces of art. Gorgeous, gorgeous little book, and obviously in Japanese, English, and Chinese. Really just, yeah, it took a couple attempts to actually get a copy of this, pay for a copy of this, but yeah, really happy to have it. I don't think it's in stock anymore, which would be evident because it sold out twice before I was able to get mine. But I always try to keep an eye out for the new books on Glacier Bay, because not only do they publish their own, but they also distribute a lot of really cool indie comics, and I love it, and I want to support them every way that I can. Speaking of Glacier Bay books, I picked up a comic that I saw Quantic Cat tweeting about. They really enjoyed it. I decided to pick it up. It looks like something I'd be interested in, and I really loved this comic. So this is set in Japan. The creator's Japanese. Is read in the same direction as manga. So you read it right to left. But I do believe that this was an English language work. And was actually published and distributed by Shortbox in the UK. If you're not familiar with what Shortbox is, it's a subscription, like, comics box that is pretty cool. I haven't actually ever bought a copy, like a box of theirs myself, but you can typically buy the comics that are included in Shortbox after the fact. So if you're not interested in getting the whole, like, 5 or 6 comics that they put into their regular subscription, you just want 1 or 2, you can buy those separately, and so that's what I did. And so this is Hana Chatani's Pass the Baton, or Baton. And I really loved this. So this comic is about these 2 characters here, right? And so initially, our female character, she's on the way home from picking up food, aka alcohol, from the local, 7-Eleven convenience store. And on the way home, she runs into this teenage boy who's confessing his feelings to a girl who rejects him, and obviously he's pretty bummed out. And she, as, young woman, an adult, doesn't really want to get involved, but she's like, oh, man, I've never seen a live confession like this before, dang. She goes home, she tells her boyfriend about it, and she's hanging out on her patio, on her balcony, and she sees this kid walking home, depressed, obviously, upset. He confessed his feelings and was totally rejected, and this woman is like, hey kid, hey sad rejected boy, hey kid, and he's like, what? She's yelling from the balcony. He's like, what the hell? And she's like, here you go, and she just throws a can of beer at him, and she's like, cheer up kid, like, don't worry about it. And he's just like, who is this crazy woman? And he opens the beer and he tries, and like, oh my god, ew, because he's 16 and like, oh god, what is this? And so, they continue on their lives, they live their separate lives, but she remembers, this sad teen boy, and he obviously remembers this crazy woman who threw a can of beer at him. And several years later, like 5 years later, they run into each other again. He's now older in university, and they reconnect. He's like, oh yeah, I was really, upset at the time, but despite that, and despite it being weird, like, you actually really helped me. I thought, I was kind of at my lowest point there, or I was really hurt, but you kind of, brought this absurdity to the situation, and also helped me, see outside the immediate rejection. So, I really appreciate that. And so she and her boyfriend and this kid, or this young man now, and his boyfriend, they kind of become good friends, and it's just about the influence and the friendship between these two people who really were met through circumstance and had a pretty strange, odd relationship introduction, especially, and their friendship, and it's just really, really good. I just loved it a whole lot. They discover that they have a lot in common. They're both like big bug nerds, so they kind of bond over insects, and it's just really, really good. And not only is it about how she helped him sort of unexpectedly, but how he helped her, or helps her, and it's just really, really good. I loved it. And if it is something that sounds interesting to you, I will put the link in the description, because it's not super expensive, totally worth the read. And yeah, I loved it. I love the art style as well. Like, man, it's just pretty cute. And I just think it's great. It's a good time, and made me smile, and like made me all aww. Just, it makes you appreciate good friends as well. Pass the baton is great, and I highly recommend it. Very exciting. I got a new art book as well for a series that I haven't read so much as being just a general fan of for a long time. We don't have many, if any, of the novels available, especially anymore, in English, and that is so this is the third Kino's Journey art book, Blanc. There's also a Noir and Rouge one, which obviously features a lot of Kino's Journey artwork, which is super duper lovely. This one's my favorite. I love this one. But you can also see that there's a bunch of the Gun Gale Online spin-off artwork in here. Bunch of the Gakuen Kino artwork in here. So, stuff from just everything that this creator has done over the course of recent years. Yeah, really lovely art book. I'm a big fan of this artist's style. There's Fate Grand Order stuff. I don't know anything about Fate Grand Order, right? But I know that this is Hokusai. I don't know anything else, but I know that she is Hokusai. Yeah, really nice little art book. And yeah, I still need to get the first two. I've been meaning to for a long time. But I need to kind of wait until I have some money, and then I can pick them up from Mandarake, more specifically. But yeah, so you can see as well, like, it has what's included in there. Nice little art book, and I'm hoping to get more of. Yeah, you can see Koroboshi Kohaku is the artist for the novels, and for a lot of Sigsawa's series, including, as I said, Gun Gale Online, which is a Sword Art Online spin-off series. Manga is a debut that I haven't actually read yet, which is not what I typically like to do, but I have seen the anime for this, so I can talk a little bit about it, and that is Volume 1 of Keep Your Hands Off Eizouken. This is by Sumito Owara, and is about 3 high school girls who decide to found a anime production club at their school because 2 out of the 3 of them are very interested and dedicated to anime. The third one, sort of the business brains behind the operation. And so it's about being an artist and creation and passion and expression, and just kind of a fun, interesting celebration of what anime is and can be. I really enjoyed the anime of this. I really look forward to reading this volume and you know, taking my time exploring the series. It's one that I look forward to reading. But this is a Dark Horse publication. I don't know when I'll see subsequent volumes. Maybe the second volume's already come out. I don't remember, but it my Amazon order still hadn't been fulfilled by the time that I found this in store. I had my local comic store, so I just bought it from there and cancelled my Amazon order. So I don't know if that's a testament to Australia's terrible online services or more so Dark Horse's distribution network. But yeah, happy to finally dive into this series, hopefully sooner rather than later. And I definitely check out the anime. It's very, very, very good. Really like the distinct art style to this as well. And it's just kind of an interesting, eclectic setting. It's really, really fun and really great characters as well. Volume that I haven't actually read yet, but I'm probably going to get into as soon as I finish with this video, and that is volume 2 of The Witch and the Beast. I know that volume 4 is either out or solicited already, but this is by Kosuke Satake. This is a dark fantasy series about these two here who are kind of investigators of supernatural witches, like mysteries, but namely witches, because our main female character, she's being cursed by a witch. She's trying to fix this curse that she's been afflicted with, and the only way to do so is to kill the witch that inflicted the curse, because in actuality she's not a spunky young woman, but is in fact a violent and powerful warrior barbarian individual. It's pretty interesting. The first volume was quite intriguing. I look forward to getting more into the series, and I liked it quite a bit. This was another one that I had my eye on from the solicitation, like from the lessons announcement, and it definitely piqued my interest, and I'm looking forward to reading more. Next is the most recent volume of a series that I really love. Really sweet, funny, cute. That is Wotakoi, Love is Hard for Otaku, Omnibus 4, so this collects volumes 7 and 8. And this is a story, a series about working adults who are all nerdy in their own ways, kind of closet otaku, in the case of our main female character, and their romantic relationships with each other, and it's just generally really, really sweet and cute and wonderful and lovely. I love this series a whole bunch. It's incredibly funny. There's so many sweet little, I love it. It's kind of a pain that they're 2-in-1s just because it means you have to wait longer for volumes to come out. I know the 11th volume just came out in Japan, so hopefully we see volume 5 faster than we saw volume 4, because this was pushed back a lot, for a very long time. I think part of it was COVID, but also part of it was just, I don't know, a slow publication in Japan. So, yeah, that sucks. But thankfully, it seems like we have at least another English volume's worth of content, so we should be getting that faster from Kodansha than we did for this volume. Wonderful anime adaptation for the series as well. It's just overall really, really good. Our main couple is a girl who she wants to be seen as quote unquote normal. She's, pretty. Initially, she changes work. She finds a new job because she was outed as a big nerd by her ex-boyfriend at work. She's a fujoshi. She writes doujin, and she's just super into nerd culture. And at her new job, she actually reconnects with a boy that she knew in her childhood, who is just like an unabashed gamer. Like, all he does is play games. And he's quite like, he doesn't hide that fact, and everyone knows that about him. But she knows that he knows about her, like, interests, her nerdy hobbies, and so she decides to kind of make him her shoulder to cry on and bemoan the fact that, you know, she has to hide her nerdy self to anyone, to be taken seriously, and she never wants anyone that she dates to find out about that because it'd be super embarrassing. And he makes the suggestion, well, like, I already know all that about you, so why don't you just date me, right? And she's like, I could never do that. But then ultimately she's like, actually, hey, let's see if this works out. And it's super cute. They also have co-workers who are their superiors in the workplace, a little more senior, who are on the cover here. They were sort of rivals. They were both on the volleyball team, the men's and women's volleyball team, so they've known each other for a very long time. They're always at each other's throats, still are. But she is a cosplayer, more specifically a crossplayer, so she typically cosplays male characters and is, again, super nerdy. She's super into BL. And this guy, he's probably the most normal of the bunch, but he's also someone who will go to Animate and buy the latest volumes of his favorite series. He watches a whole bunch of anime. He's a bit of a normie when it comes to anime, but he's still someone who you wouldn't necessarily pick it to be a hobby of his. And those two, again, their romantic relationship is pretty great. I love the series a whole bunch, and it's just about the friendship amongst each other and them bonding over nerdy hobbies, and of course the romantic aspect as well. Wotakoi is super duper good. I love it, and yeah, happy to have more of this series. Check out the anime as well. As it is a shoujo beat title, a debut, a series that I was highly anticipating and didn't disappoint me, and that is The King's Beast by Rei Thoma. This is a spin-off series of Rei Thoma's other work, Dawn of the Arcana. It's set in the same universe or world, as it were, different country, but same basic premise. So in this world, there are humans, and then there are Ajin, who are humans with like animal features, ears, tails, that sort of thing. They also have super strength, and they can sometimes have powers, which is explained in this book, is what the Arcana are in the original series. And so they're super strong, and they're kind of better adapted or evolved maybe than humans, but they are seen and treated as second-class citizens. They are basically indentured servants, slaves almost. Every Ajin male has to enroll in the military for, to protect the ruling class or the king or whomever it may be. And Ajin women typically become like house servants or sex workers or both. So what this series is so we have our main character, and her twin brother, when they were children, was chosen. His power, his arcana, was discovered at a very young age, and so he was chosen to become the bodyguard of the third crown prince, third one of the princes, right? But he was brutally murdered shortly after his arrival to the kingdom, And so his twin sister has decided to get revenge for her brother's murder. She blames the prince for what happened to her brother. And so she pretends to be a boy because she, there's not any opportunities for Ajin women. And she also has to prove her strength and being able to protect the prince, to be the best candidate, to be able to get close to him, obviously, without having a special power. So it means that she's kind of doing a Mulan-esque, thing, pretending to be a boy and being the best warrior that there is, improving herself in order to get close to the person she thinks is responsible for her brother's death, which is this prince. And she's about to enact her revenge, but she realizes that actually the prince, it wasn't his fault, and he's very distraught and guilty over the fact that her brother did die. He isn't aware that she's a girl, first up. Nobody knows that she's a girl initially in this first volume. And so together, she and the prince have decided to unveil or uncover the truth behind her brother's untimely death, the person really responsible for what happened. And it's super good. I love Dawn of the Arcana, and I was super excited for this one. I haven't read The Water Dragon's Bride or whatever it is, her other series that she's done, which isn't quite really related to this one, but I've heard good things. I will get to it at some point. There's also a bonus chapter at the end of this that is about the characters in Water Dragon's Bride, so that's a fun extra for anyone who's into that series. But yeah, The King's Beast, super duper good, and I really enjoyed it. So I look forward to more of the series. It's another great series from Shoujo Beat, and I encourage you to both try this series and check out the original parent series, Dawn of the Arcana. They are both super duper good. A Shonen Jump title, one of the newer titles coming to print, one that I absolutely love, some of the best stuff that's been in Jump recently, and that is, of course, the third volume of Chainsaw Man by Tatsuki Fujimoto. This is the story of a teenage boy, 15-year-old boy called Denji, who is really never had anything good happen in his life, and through sort of sheer circumstance, he forges a bond with this demon dog called Pochita, and after his untimely death, Pochita starts a contract with Denji, which gives him the powers of a devil. So this world has devils that there's societies trying to fight, because usually they cause massive destruction and death. And so through his agreement and contract with Pochita, Denji becomes Chainsaw Man, which is a demon with the head of a chainsaw and chainsaw hands and things like that. And he is brought into the public safety division, which is the group in charge of, taking down devils, as it were. And so he joins that group under the premise of it being a bit of stability, but also he kind of is in love with the woman who runs it, and she totally understands this. She completely manipulates the situation that he will join. And this is I love this series so much. It's violent, it's gory, it's gruesome. You may have noticed a lot of hyper violence, a lot of gore, a lot of also just kind of weird, gross stuff. It's quite The thing about Fujimoto's works is that they're quite in your face. There's a lot of like shock, disgust stuff. Fire Punch was the same, but despite that, it's actually quite wholesome. There's actually quite good messages. There's really, really wonderful platonic relationships in this series. I love this series so much. I really enjoy Fire Punch as well. I know that it's very hit or miss. And it's certainly a series you need to go into knowing what it's about, right? But Chainsaw Man, this first like 12 volumes is the first part of it. It's something that is completely and utterly outside of the realm of what typical Jump stuff is, at least Weekly Shonen Jump. It really pushed the envelope, super duper wonderful, and if you can kind of get through the initial premise of it, if you can accept that like Denji is like his focus is on boobs and like getting a girlfriend because he's a horny 15-year-old who's never had any sort of human connection, then once you can get through that, and like with Fire Punch, once you can get through like the initial like what is going on, this is almost abhorrent to a degree that goes beyond what people can accept. This is really wild and out there and not sure if I like this. Then it there's a lot of payoff for if you can get through any initial discomfort and understand that that discomfort is purposeful. As I said, it's a similar premise with Fire Punches, that there's a lot of very uncomfortable topics and subject matter and themes that are in Fire Punch, but it's all done with the express purpose of exploring that uncomfort, right? So yeah, I love this series a whole bunch, and I highly encourage you to try it. If you haven't, it's all available on Shonen Jump, the app. If you're wanting to read it, there's one chapter that you will have to read on the website because it's just too much for the app itself. But otherwise, check it out. It is, like, again, with Fire Punch, probably a try before you buy, but if you can commit to it, it will pay back in absolute dividends, right? So, Chainsaw Man, wonderful, love it. Super weird and quirky and unusual and just out there, but totally amazing because of those things. Yeah, I love this series a whole bunch. Next is the first volume of a series that is actually the first of this creator's works that I've ever bought. I'm hoping to get another one of her titles too, but this one was at my local comic store, so when I saw it, I picked it up. I've been meaning to get it, and this is Maison and Koku by Rumiko Takahashi. This is the like new 2-in-1-ish editions, perfect editions of this 15-volume series, which follows a Ronin, aka a young person, a guy, Godai, who he failed the entrance exams for university, so he is living in a boarding house in order to study and focus on passing the exams for next year so he can become a university student. And it's about his day-to-day life after a young woman joins the boarding house. She kind of becomes the manager, his affections for her, but also the crazy, fun, eclectic mix of other residents at this boarding house. And it's a series that I've heard nothing but good things about. It's one of her shorter works, which is a little less of an investment, and I've been meaning to get it, as I said. So I really look forward to getting into this series. It's one that I've been curious about for a long time. The fact that it has been rescued like this by Viz is really encouraging. And yeah, I have great respect for Rumiko Takahashi, but a lot of her other kind of very famous series like Inuyasha and Ranma 1/2 and Urusei Yatsura are just so long, and the gag stuff is quite repetitive. I'd argue that Inuyasha is quite repetitive as well, that I don't want to necessarily be buying those series for the shelf, in the collection, the physical collection at least. So yeah, this was one that I expected to get at some point. I also want to get Mermaid Saga because that's very much in my typical interests. But yeah, so I haven't actually read this one all the way through. I'm just more so aware of what the series is like. So let me know your thoughts and opinions on the series as well if you've read it, whether you've enjoyed Takahashi's other works or if this is the first of hers you've tried as well. I love reading those comments, right? So yeah, Maison and Koku, really happy to see it back and available. And yeah, is volume 13 of Horimiya by Hiro and Daisuke Hagawara. This currently has a very good anime adaptation airing right now, which is kind of adapting the most important bits, the best bits of the manga series. And the manga itself is ending very soon, or either recently has ended or the ending has been announced. I don't know if it's actually the final chapters come out, but there's not too much of it left. I suspect that it'll be 15, maybe 16 volumes in all, probably 15, which is kind of the perfect length for a series like this, in my opinion, and kind of times well, again, with this recent anime adaptation. I already have volume 14. I just, because I ordered this from somewhere else, and then it just never fulfilled my order, so then I had to wait. It was a whole thing, but happy to finally have this volume. So now that I can actually get into and continue the series, I really love the series. I like the characters in it. I think the comedy is hugely funny. And I apologize, I don't know what's going on today, but there's just been planes flying super low all day. So if you hear that in the background, apologies. But this is a really funny series. I really enjoy it. It has its issues. Like, it's not perfect, but I do like all of the characters. I think the comedy is brilliant for the most part. Just some really funny jokes. And yeah, Horimiya is just really wonderful. I'm glad that the new anime has kind of introduced the series to a lot of people. Hopefully encourage them to try the manga. And yeah, I have 2 volumes of a series that I really love, really am happy that I caught up on. And this is Hakume and Mikochi by Takuto Kashiki. This is the story of 2 tiny little women who live like they're just tiny, and there's other like tiny people around, and just their day-to-day lives in their society of tiny people and animals that kind of coexist in this forest together. It's just super good. I love the series so much, right? It's a Harta series, so it's from Harta magazine. The artwork is gorgeous. This is really like the soothing iyashike, like slice of life, healing sorts of series. Lots of, reveling in the atmosphere, in food. There's nothing, like, no huge major conflicts. It is a feel-good little series. I just love it. And it can be quite poignant. Both Hakume and Mikochi are really interesting, fun characters. And I think it's marvelous. It's just overall really, really good. And I highly recommend it. I don't know how long the series as a whole is going to be. I know it is still currently running in Harta, and I hope it never ends. But at the same time, I do hope that it finds its stopping point at sometime in the future. But if it's 10 volumes or 15 volumes, I don't really care. There's just so much to enjoy following the lives of these little women. We have volume 3 of Shinichi Fukura's My Dress Up Darling by Square Enix. A rom-com, ecchi series about cosplay and being a teen and love and passion and it's super good. It's super good. I've talked about this series a lot on stream because I recently discovered it and it's just overwhelmingly wonderful, adorable. As I said, there's an ecchi element. There's certainly fan service in the series. I don't think it really detracts a lot from the series. It's noticeable. It's there. But I don't think the series is any worse for it. I think it's done in a quite fun way. It doesn't feel lurid, if that makes sense. But anyway, My Dress Up Darling is about a high school boy called Gojo who comes from a family of traditional doll makers, and he really loves, the traditional Hina dolls. He thinks they're super beautiful. He wants to become a professional doll maker like his grandfather, who is raising him. And so he's dedicated kind of his whole life to that. And he's quite shy. He doesn't have many friends. Not many people really understand his interest in Hina dolls. And in the past, he's been made fun of for being so passionate about this. So he kind of keeps to himself. But one of his classmates, Marin, she's very popular, she's very likable. She's one of those kind of popular girls who's friends with everyone, but really because she is just generally friendly, she's a little bit of a typical, ditzy high school girl, doesn't care too much about, doesn't have her life plan set or anything like that, but she is incredibly proud and excited and enthusiastic about all of her hobbies. She doesn't have any shame when she's talking about the things that she likes, even if they're not things that other people think are cool to talk about or cool to enjoy. She recognizes that she enjoys them, and why should she care if other people don't enjoy them? It's something that gives her a lot of excitement and entertainment and happiness. And for our main character, Gojo, he kind of really respects that about her. He thinks that that's an amazing thing that she can have such confidence in herself and her tastes. She doesn't care if people are judgy about the things that she likes, and she'll stand up for herself. Anyway, one day, the two of them run into each other in the home ec department at school because Gojo wants to use the sewing machine. The one at his house is broken, and he has to make the clothes for all of the dolls. And Marin wants to use the sewing machine because she wants to cosplay as her favorite character from an incredibly explicit, humiliation-based, kink erog game that she's just totally in love with. She wants to cosplay her favorite character, and she realizes that Gojo can make clothes, so she asks if he can help her with her cosplay, because he's just so good at making clothes, and she's very much an amateur. And so they become friends. They have this weird arrangement where he's helping her, and slowly their friendship kind of grows stronger and stronger. There's very obviously a romantic interest, especially on Marin's side. She over time realizes her affections for this guy, and how much she likes him, and it's just really sweet. It's really likable. I love both of these characters. They're just good kids. Definitely a bit of opposites attract with them, but they both see a lot of strength in the other and really respect the other person, and I find that that's really wonderful to see. It's also very funny. This is a funny series. And it's just like, despite the fan service element to it, despite the fact that, you know, this is focused on cosplay and things like that, it's just really, not that that's a bad thing, right? But it's just really wholesome. There's a lot of ways that this premise could have gone wrong, but because the characters are so likable, you really get invested in what's going on with them, and you want them to succeed, and you want things to work out. And I just really liked this series, or do still like the series a whole bunch. I can't wait for volume 4. Square Enix, good job. Really, like, good job. Super happy about the series, and I definitely recommend it if you want like a fun romantic comedy with kind of a nerdy twist on it, and you don't mind fan service. It's very, 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 very good. Next is a volume I haven't read yet, just because I don't have the volume between the first one and this one, which is the third one. So I gotta buy that before I can continue. But I got this because, again, I saw it at my local comic store. I always prefer to support them versus, you know, Mr. Bezos. So I knew that I'd be getting this at some point, so it's not really a big deal getting it now versus later. And this is A Man and His Cat by Umi Sakurai, Volume 3. Oh, this is such a sweet series. This is about an older man and his ugly cat and the love that they have for each other. And it's so freaking sweet. If you don't immediately fall in love with this ugly cat, if this series doesn't like squeeze your heart in the most painful way, then I'm sorry, we can't be friends. It's just so good. I love it so much. It's just, yeah, phenomenal. Oh my goodness, Square Enix, you really have some great titles, and this is definitely one I would recommend for most people, if not everybody. Yeah, it's the type of thing that's just like super duper wholesome. It makes you just feel good at the end of the day. And I love it. I'm super happy that this found its way to English legally and print legally. So yeah, definitely check it out. And don't check out the live action because the cat puppet is scary as hell. But yeah, wonderful manga. Highly recommended. Is volume 3, another Square Enix release, and this is Soul Eater, the Perfect Edition, volume 3 by Atsushi Okubo. Obviously just a rebranding, reprint, newer version of the Soul Eater manga. Volume 3, you can definitely see how the art has improved drastically from the first volume. I do not have the second volume as of yet because, again, this was a series that I saw, or a book that I saw at my local comics publisher or comic book store, so I decided to get it because I would get it at some point anyway. Soul Eater is... I have very mixed feelings about the Soul Eater series in general. The manga has a lot of problems. It kind of... the fan service element really impacts negatively the pacing of the series. I think that it's not like a perfect series by any means, but it is still pretty fun. There's a lot of action. I do think there's some really great stuff, especially in the latter half. I just kind of really like the aesthetic of Soul Eater a whole bunch as well. And it's also not as... I mean, there's a lot of fan service, right? But it isn't as horribly ingrained as it seems to be in Fire Force, which I can't, maybe that's unfair to say, but because I haven't read all of Fire Force, but It certainly impacts how that series goes as well. I think that's one of Okubo's kind of weaknesses, is that I don't care if you have fan service in your series, in your shonen series, but if it just completely screeches the pacing to a halt and kind of stops any forward momentum, that's when it does become an issue. And Soul Eater definitely has that within it. But I just like I like Maka, I like Soul, I like Death the Kid, I like all, like, I really like the cast for the most part in Soul Eater. Especially the kid cast, like the student cast. I really like the spooky Halloween aesthetic of it. I think the idea of like weapons and meisters and witches is pretty fun and interesting and done well. Like when it's focused on, it is done well. I think it's a cool world that Okubo's created, and I think the same of Fire Force as well. There's a lot of potential with the settings that he creates. I'm also just kind of nostalgic for Soul Eater too. I also appreciate this new translation, new release from Square Enix. This is, we're kind of more established and introduced to Krona, which thankfully does use they them pronouns for them, which is exciting and cool. I just like when a series can get us a fixed up, cleaned up translation. And Soul Eater definitely needed it. But yeah, it's not a perfect series by any means, but it is a pretty fun, interesting shonen action series, and I'm happy that there are these newer editions being released by Square Enix, because it's a pretty good time. The last of my quote-unquote normal manga, I have some Yuri and BL to talk about now. So I'll start with the Yuri, the first one being a series that I got 2 volumes of, so I can actually finally continue with the series, reading it, because I was missing the 3rd volume for a long time. Finally have that one, and I have the most recent volume, both in English obviously, and that is A Tropical Fish Yearns for Snow, volumes 3 and 6. This is by Makoto Hagino, and is a story of 2 high school girls who are part of the aquarium club, and their friendship, their relationship, their feelings for each other, and it's just really sweet and kind of low-key and just lovely, right? And oh, look at all the cute animals. Oh, it's so cute. This is a series that prior to its licensing was one that my good friend Ray from Whimsical Pictures had told me about. It was one that she kind of pegged as getting licensed in English, and when it did, she's like, everyone must read this. And so I definitely checked it out on her recommendation, and it's well worth the read. I really like it. As to whether or not the relationship between these girls goes anywhere, develops, past this kind of initial first brush and admiration and friendship and feelings that may be love but may not be, I don't know. I don't think anyone knows. It's an incredibly slow burn, so that might impact your reading of it and enjoyment of it. Look at it. Oh, frog. But yeah, it's been really good. I've really enjoyed the series thus far, and I cannot wait to continue it. So be sure to check out A Tropical Fish Yearns for Snow, because it is lovely. Super duper lovely. And nice to get another kind of longer Yuri series in English. Good job, Viz. I love it. It is a 7 Seas title. This is the second and penultimate volume of this Yuri series. I've also got the 3rd one on its way to me, so hopefully I'll get that next month, and then I will read all of it in one go. I've read the 1st volume, but it's only 3 volumes long, so I just decided to get the other 2 and then read it finish it all at once, but I love this series, right? So this is Goodbye My Rose Garden by Dr. Pepperco. This is volume 2. And this is a historical romance about a young Japanese woman who's a teacher in Japan, but she moves to England in order to become a novelist, in order to meet her favorite novelist as well. But things don't really work out. She ends up befriending a young woman who is at the publishing house that she is visiting, and she becomes her, closest maid, her personal maid, Alice, who's this young woman, from a very well-to-do, respectable family. But there are rumors circulating that she is a lesbian, or at least prefers the company of women. And obviously, that's not something that was super accepted or expected. Women definitely had their roles in society, especially those from well-to-do families. There was, an expectation to get married and, find a good match and bring in money for your family and be supported and birth heirs and things like that, of which she struggles with, and she feels very hopeless in her situation and is trying to escape. And so she asks our main character if she would help her die at some point. The only reason she would keep her around, if she would help her escape, the expectations and the pressures of the current era. And it's super good. It is very much like a across class lines romance, and I loved it so much. I loved the first volume so much. It reminded me a lot of like a gay version of something Kaoru Mori would write. It's very reminiscent of like Emma and things like that. It's just, I'm a big sucker for historical romance, and I just think that this one is done so beautifully well. It's also kind of not surprising, but it's not very often that in Yuri manga that homophobia is kind of the villain of the piece. A lot of times Yuri exists within a world where homophobia just doesn't exist, or, female or lesbian relationships are normalized and fine, which they are. Like, they are fine, but they don't get a lot of pushback from the people around them or society. There's not this, shock and disgust or whatever from other people. You do see that more so in, like, BL. That homophobia is kind of seen as the thing that the characters have to overcome to be happy together. But yeah, not so much in Yuri. And I think that that's a pretty interesting aspect of the series, and I appreciated it. I think they did it really well, and it works to the actual setting, right? So yeah, I just love this. It ticked a lot of my boxes, and I cannot wait to read more and finish it, hopefully sooner rather than later. We have the most recent volume, I think volume 5 has come out, but we have volume 4 of Given by Natsuki Kizu. This is an ongoing BL story about, members of a band, pretty much, but we have a high school couple and then some university students, all of whom are in the band, all who have, like, pretty complicated pasts and current relationships, and it's super good. I love it so much. The anime is super wonderful. Everyone go watch it. It's super good. I haven't watched the movie yet. Shame on me, I know, but it's... Ooh, I am super, super happy that we've gotten this series in English, as I think it's a pretty good start, like a good introductory series for those who haven't read BL before, who wants to try a BL. It's nothing so far has been super explicit. There's none of the really toxic tropes that a lot of people even now still consider like typical for BL. It doesn't have any of that. It does have relationship drama, but it's like normal relationship drama that doesn't include like rape turning into love and stuff like that. It's so good. It's so good. It will hit you in your heart. If you enjoyed, I would encourage you to watch the anime. If you enjoy the anime, I would encourage you to read the manga. Even if you're not a BL fan, even if you're not someone who considers them like a fujoshi or a fudanshi, I think it's one that has a very broad appeal. And if you don't mind, you know, kind of romantic dramas featuring queer characters, then you owe it to yourself to read Given. It's just super good, and I love it. Yeah. It's so good. Continuing on letting your freak flag fly, honestly, I have volume 3 of Monster and the Beast by Renji. This is the third volume. Whoa ho ho, cranks up the explicit nature. The first 2 volumes really aren't explicit whatsoever. This one, man, if you've been waiting for our couple to you know, do the deed, then you will be very satisfied with this volume. This is the story of a monstrous demon called Kavo, who, despite his scary and ugly exterior, is actually a sweetheart and kind of shy and hesitant in personality. And he comes across and helps this dashing older gentleman, this dapper man, who's on the cover here, Liam, who, despite looking very put together, is in reality a incredibly promiscuous, chaotic bi, and will sleep with pretty much anything that takes his interest. And the two of them decide to travel together. Their relationship grows closer over the course of that travel, and ultimately in this volume you kind of get the payoff of that. Dang, I can't really flip through it because there's a lot of that in there, but I do think it's a very cute art style. I really like our characters. I think there's a lot to enjoy with their relationship. It's fun. It's funny. It's really also interesting. It leaves on a kind of a cliffhanger. So we're learning more about Liam himself, and I hope that we see volume 4 because there's a lot to still be explored and exposed over the course of the series, and I'm looking forward to it because yeah. So Monster and the Beast Volume 3, really, really good. And yeah, if you're into couples, relationships with an inhuman element in there, where one of the partners isn't just a normal human being, then this will probably do it for you. It's very good, and yeah, definitely encouraging those with who are more inclined to be interested in the inhuman. The next series is one that comes with basically every content warning under the sun. MADK or Mad K. This is yeah. Do not buy this series if you don't know exactly what you're getting into. Do some preemptive research because this is explicit, right? But also it's like the extreme ends of kink. So basically, I want to, before I get into the series itself, I will give fair warning to people that this has vor fetish. It's pertains to demons, so there's a lot of monster, sex, vor stuff. So if you don't know what vor is, it's the mutilation and consumption of gore and of people either eating someone or being eaten in a sexually explicit manner, or with the expectation of it being, as an arousing thing. So that very obviously is not something that everyone is comfortable with. It may scar you if you're really not expecting it. So, but I did know what I was getting into. I'm a big girl, and although this isn't my kink, I definitely not. I also find this a pretty interesting, intriguing series. I really love the art style as well. I need to show you what it looks like, but off camera, because there's a lot of explicit parts to this. A lot of very harrowing scenes. Not a huge amount of consent going on as well, just by the by, but demons, what can you expect? So basically this is about a high school boy, human high school boy, who summons a demon in order to live out his fantasy, his greatest fantasy of eating someone, of consuming someone. And so he does. He signs this contract with the demon in order to consume this demon in exchange for his soul. So basically he tears apart this demon and I don't know if cannibalize is quite the right word, but cannibalizes him over the course of a month. Wherein after said month he's kind of sick of just eating him, and then sex happens with the half mutilated, mangled body of this demon, who's still conscious and functioning. He's a demon, he's not gonna die. So that happens, and this kid who obviously has very dark, drastic fetishes, and is the whole reason he summoned a demon is because he wanted to live his fantasy but not hurt another person through that. So he didn't want to become a cannibalistic serial killer. He just wanted to be able to experience it for himself, and if he had to die in order to do that, then he was okay with that. So his contract with the demon has been fulfilled. He loses his life, but the demon who he summoned, Jay, is so interested and has taken a particular liking to this human boy, so he decides to keep him alive as a new demon himself, trying to make him more comfortable with demon society, and see if he can create another demon, and whether this kid has potential to be as dastardly a demonic presence as his kinks and his interests tended towards as a human. And it's kind of implied in the future that this teenage boy, Makoto, will eventually be an incredibly powerful demon, one to surpass Jay himself, and so there's a lot of potential there. Yeah, this is not an easy read. It's not like a fun, meet cute, oh, young love, first dates, sweet, falling in love series about gay characters. No, no, no. This is the weird shit. This is the absolute, like, super extreme on the spectrum of kinks. It is a very, very unusual, and it's not common that we get stuff that does revel in kink and extreme kink so readily. But it is interesting. I did like this first volume. I didn't find it sexy, but I can understand why some people might find it sexy. Maybe. Not me, but I also really like creepy monsters, and so I'm not gonna say that I didn't enjoy this book, and I won't be buying more because I will. It's just not one to read at grandma's house. It's not one that I can like readily recommend. It's like, oh yes, everyone should go read this. No, 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 no. If you're into it, or if you're interested and you know what you're getting into, as I said, then do that, check it out. If it does not sound like your thing, which is absolutely reasonable, and I would expect to be most people, then, live your life. You don't have to expose yourself to this. You don't have to try it just because, it's a new, interesting title and very different from Sublime's other stuff. You can just live your life and keep yourself apart from what the series is. But yeah, it was interesting. I liked it for various reasons. None to do with like being super like invested and for satisfying my personal kinks or anything, but I liked it. I'll be reading more, so yeah. MADK or Mad K, it's good, but it comes with every content warning and like 300 asterisks afterwards and all of these disclaimers as to like just take it by ear. You don't have to read this. It's not a series that will appeal to everybody or most people, to be honest. But yeah, it is really interesting and cool that Sublime has licensed it, and I would hope that it kind of shows a trend of being able to explore messy, dark, weird kink, especially in fiction. Honestly, BL over the last year or so has really been pushing the idea that it's totally cool to let your freak flag fly. Manga in general, explicit manga in general, which I am all for, and definitely with this, there sure is something for everyone, and if you are someone who's into gore and vor and stuff like that, eroguro, then yeah, this might be one for you to check out. So, MADK by Ryo Suzuri. It's pretty good for exactly what it is. Debut, this is a new title from Yen Press. It's a shoujo, but it's also a BL. Where at least the creators behind it are BL creators. So, if and when it turns into that, do not be surprised. But this is The Vampire and His Pleasant Companions. This is about a American vampire. Well, he's kind of a failure of a vampire. He has no control over his transformation. So during the day, he's this adorable little bat. And at night, he's a handsome young man. He gets stuck. He gets frozen and accidentally in a meat slaughterhouse, and the meat gets sent to Japan. He wakes up in Japan, and through a bunch of sheer crazy circumstances, he ends up getting arrested and stuff, but he ends up living at the home of this grouchy guy. He is a mortician, well, an embalmer, more specifically. And, yeah, it's pretty good. I liked it a lot, and I'm looking forward to the next volume because I think it's just overall really good. Our vampire is as I said, a bit of a failure as a vampire. He can't control his transformation. He also can't bite people to get blood because he isn't fully transformed. He really got the short end of the short straw when being turned into a vampire. And so it'll be interesting to see how the series continues over the course of it. But yeah, really, really solid first volume. Cannot wait to read more of it. And also, I really like the artwork. The bat, as I said, is really cute. I think the characters are very distinctive, very appealing, and if you ever needed in your life a bat reading a book and trying to study, then this series has got you covered. Yeah. And also, like, a cliffhanger at the end. Really, really looking forward to it. Ooh, it's good. It's good. Check it out. For manga, something I have been waiting literally years for. So happy to finally get it. And I hope for the future that this publisher is better at dealing with all of their issues and keeping their books in print and not screwing over people, but we know that's probably not going to be the case. But I love the series so much, and I buy their books despite the gritted teeth. And that is Twittering Birds Never Fly by Koyonoda, Volume 4, as well as the extra booklet that comes with it. This is kind of a prequel-ish little book of how the characters kind of initially first met before they really knew each other. And this one is just continuing from where we left off. I love the series so much. The film was good, but like with everything Twittering Birds Never Fly, this one has a lot of plot in this first half, but at a point I can't show you past this point really, because it gets explicit very, very quickly, which is good. Like, that's not a bad thing. I'm not complaining about that. But it doesn't mean that I can't, like, show it off. Well, I mean, I could, but I don't want to make too many people uncomfortable. But Koyonoda is one of my favorite BL mangaka. I love her stuff. This is a darker series. It is about the Yakuza, so there's a lot of heavy topics. Yashiro, the main character, and Domiki, the other main character, are really compelling couple to follow. And as much as I hate encouraging people buying from June and DMP, I do think that this series, if you're one who doesn't mind a darker Yakuza focused BL that deals with many, many triggering topics, not in a problematic tropey way of, you know, the BL of the 90s. It doesn't have elements of, again, rape is love, things like that. But it does handle things like sexual assault and child sexual abuse and violence and a whole bunch of stuff, attempted murder. Just a lot of dark themes that may make people uncomfortable, and if that's not your thing, that is totally okay. But if you are someone who doesn't mind that or likes that in your BL or just generally, be sure to check this one out. I love this series so much. This was my introduction to Koyonoda, and it has stayed my favorite for a long time. I do like her other stuff as well, most notably, Even So, I Will Love You Tenderly. But Twittering Birds, man, ooh, and I hope that we'd see, volumes 5, 6, and 7 sometime this decade. It's at the beginning of the decade. That gives you at least 9 years DMP. So, shape up. And I will give you my money because I'm not a hypocrite and I want these books in print. So yeah, check out the movie as well if you're interested. Again, fair warning, it is very explicit, like from the get-go, and it never stops. So, yeah, maybe not a film to like share with the family, but it is very good. It's a very strong adaptation, and super happy to finally have this series available and continuing as well. It's pretty great and pretty exciting. I have some light novels. More specifically, I have the Season 1 Monogatari box set in the box, obviously, by Vofan. Finally got this on the third re-release. I kind of dallied too long on the other re-releases, so when Vertical announced that they were reprinting it again, I knew that I had to order it immediately because I do, for all of my gripes about Nisio Isin, I do like Monogatari quite a bit, and I wanted to have this. I have the second box set, which I showed off in a previous pickup video. I also will be ordering the final season box set, which isn't actually the end of Monogatari, because of course it's not. But yeah, just happy to have this. I've read, out of all of these books, the only one I've read is Kizu Monogatari. So Bakemonogatari is obviously this set of 3, although originally was 2 in Japanese, and then Nisei Monogatari and Nekomonogatari Black, which is a prequel to Bakemonogatari. That this takes place here in the timeline, and this actually takes place like here in the time. Well, not timeline, but in the release schedule. Kizu was not the first, but it is the first in events wise. If you don't know what Monogatari is, it's about a teenage boy called Koyomi Araragi, who's a bit of a, dorky pervert. He's not like a super loser, but he's not super like interesting or wonderful or anything. But he, in the spring break, Golden Week break of his third year, one of high school. During a break in high school, he helps and then is subsequently attacked by a vampire called Kishot Arakola Heart Under Blade, aka Shinobu, who turns him into a vampire, turns him into one of her thrall. And so basically the first Kizu Monogatari is about that. It's about him becoming a vampire and trying to like adapt to that and try to become human again, because he doesn't want to live his life as a vampire. But because of that, he's exposed to oddities, to the supernatural, and so he ends up over the course of the series helping people with their own oddities, with their own being affected by supernatural forces, which may be allegories for much larger problems, may not even be supernaturally influenced whatsoever. You can't blame yokai for everything. I really do like this series a lot, but it is like with a lot of new series and stuff, it is something that you either love or hate. There doesn't seem to be a huge amount of middle ground. Koyomi as a pervert, it's something that is kind of repeated and emphasized on quite a bit over the course of the series. But despite that, he is quite. I don't mind him as a character. I think he's not the worst that I've read, and I do think he's ultimately a pretty good person. I think his relationships with all of the people in his life are, if somewhat problematic, generally pretty typical. And does have like a harem element to it, but I would say that the harem aspect of it isn't like he might, flirt and tease and whatever, but he's not actually interested in most of these girls aside from his actual girlfriend and maybe the girl who he owes his life to, who is kind of the one introduced in Kizu Monogatari. She's certainly very, very important. But regardless, anyway, Monogatari is something that I've enjoyed for a long time. I was introduced to it through the anime, as most people outside of Japan were, and even inside Japan have been. As I said, it has its issues, but despite that, I still really enjoy it. And I look forward to actually getting into the novels, because Nisio-Isin, if you've watched the show, you know that a lot of it is more so about conversation than chaotic wordplay and crazy, weird interactions with characters, and Nisio-Isin, showing off how much nuance and kind of meta commentary he can into conversations, rather than forwarding plot a lot. But yeah, I think you kind of come to expect that when we're talking about this writer. And just really happy that Vertical seems to be doing very well with these releases. I love the box sets, and I appreciate that they have done multiple print runs for these boxes, because they're certainly lovely, lovely little additions. They have also done. It's a testament to the translators that they've done such a good job with this. Although Kizu Monogatari is the only one that I've actually read, the translation is so wonderful, and it's not easy to translate Nisio-Isin. As I mentioned, there's a lot of wordplay, a lot of puns, a lot of stuff that jokes and things that don't necessarily make sense outside of Japanese. So to be able to adapt that in a punchy, clever, interesting way in English truly is art. I really, really think it's a wonderful job all around by the staff at Vertical. Great job, guys. Everything that I got this month that I read, and some things that I didn't, but a couple debuts. I don't think I finished anything this month, but hopefully next month I will have a couple more series finished, ended. And I mean hopefully, insofar as I've said it before, I do like when a series can come to a conclusion. Don't know what I'll have to show off, but I'm sure there will be plenty of books. Fear not. I hope to have some of these titles that I haven't read yet read over the next couple weeks. I do talk about all of the books that I read in each week in my live streams. So if you are interested in following a more regular update, then check those out. They're typically on at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the US, not in Australia. It's 10 p.m. my time. So if you figure out the difference for yourself, I don't know. But yeah. Let me know your thoughts, your opinions on any of the titles that I spoke about today, any of the creators, any of the publishers as well. There's a lot to talk about, as always, right? But I do love hearing your opinions, seeing what people are getting, seeing what people are talking about, and hearing, you know, agreements, disagreements. There's a lot that you can enjoy in discussing series like this. And yeah, I love it when I do get comments. I do try to reply to all of them. As always, the links to my social media are in the description below. I'm on Twitter very regularly at collectingg, all one word. I also just posted the most recent episode of the Read Right to Left podcast, which is a manga podcast. I do it every month with my wonderful co-host, Ray from Whimsical Pictures. This month we were talking about Josei manga. Next month we're talking about Fumi Yoshinaga. If that sounds like your thing, either subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and you'll get the update when I post it. But also you can follow it on Spotify or any podcasting platform that you use. We're across pretty much all of the major ones, so I don't think there's anywhere that you won't be able to find it. And what else? That's it. Oh, I have a review for a very exciting, interesting little title to be posted probably the same day as this is posted. Maybe tomorrow, I don't know, very, very soon. Maybe before. So check that one out if you haven't. It is one of Iridori Aqua's new titles, and I loved it. So, spoilers for my thoughts or for my feelings on it, but I'll go a little bit more into it in that video. So be sure to check it out if that sounds like something that interests you. And yeah, so thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye till then.